So I'd say my name is Faith Carmichael. I am first and foremost an art lover. I'm also just a proud resident of Atlanta, and I love the city, and I love all that we are and all that we can be one day. I am also executive director and co-founder of Next, sometimes referred to as Next Atlanta, which is an organization that is really focused on bringing visibility and providing exposure for Atlanta artists that are emerging and that are aspiring and are actually going to be the artists that we all know and we all talk about and can refer to by first name a year from now. And it's about giving them a stage where they can be able to share their talents more broadly with more of the city. I have been living in Atlanta since 1996. I came here right around the Olympics. And so I can't do the math off the top of my head, but for a couple decades now. And it is not where I'm from originally, but it's become home. I'm originally from the Caribbean. So I'm born and raised in Guyana, South America. Also did about 6 or 7 years in Barbados. Went to school up north, at the University of Maryland, and I've been here since then. So I think some of the challenges that I've seen as someone who loves the art in the city is really what inspired me to even create Next to begin with, or co-found Next to begin with. I think a few things. I think we have amazing talent in this city, but I think a lot of the times our art and our artists are very siloed. So Next is not just about visual arts. We're about visual arts, we're about music, we're about literary arts. And I think what we found, those of us that helped launch Next back in 2009, what we found is we were going to these amazing events. We were going to places where we were seeing, frankly, Okeeba, Jubalo. We were going to events where we saw Fahamo Peku. We're going to events where we saw Days Ahead. And they were performing or exhibiting their work in spaces with relatively small audiences, and these individual audiences and artists didn't really even know about each other. And what I found is if you were very squarely in particular categories, like if you were a hip-hop artist, if you're a gospel artist, or if you're one of the sort of 3 selected visual artists that got the kind of exposure that the city was giving year after year, people knew your name, people knew about you, but throughout the city there were these amazing artists doing sort of powerful, authentic work that didn't necessarily sort of fit any particular box, and no one knew about them, or those that knew about them just were a very small proportion of this amazing city that we have. And so we thought, why don't we at least help create some kind of space, some kind of stage, some kind of platform to be able to showcase this work and just give it a broader audience. And I think that's one of our biggest challenges, is twofold, that we're so siloed. All the different arts and artists that are doing incredible work are just kind of doing it in their little corner somewhere, and we as a broader community don't get the opportunity to just witness the work that they're doing. And then I think the other big challenge is we're too committed to just saying art must look and sound and taste and feel like this. And if you are doing something that expands beyond those borders, there's no appetite for it. And so we just want to create an appetite for that, because it's beautiful, powerful work that moves people and needs a stage. My hope, and again, it's what we at Next are really committed to doing, is helping to create an appetite for artistry that, again, does not fall into some predetermined category. So if you are able to come to an event and see a musician that is not doing something that you're hearing on the radio, but you're in a space where it is safe for that person to perform exactly how the music shows up in their soul and their spirit, then there's sort of an openness. When you see that there's a willingness to validate that among others, then I think there's a willingness from you as an individual to also do the same. And if you are going to a spoken word activity and everyone is not sort of doing that sort of sing-song effort that we see over and over again, but you are moved and touched and inspired by, say, a John Good or an Ayodele Heath, and you really are able to go to these events that we are curating and cultivating and you're actually able to have access to this powerful art, then I think it helps create the appetite here in the city of Atlanta for this. I think whatever is given light has the opportunity to flourish. And if these amazing artists stay in the shadows, then I think that never really happens. I just have so much hope for the city. I think potential's a really rough word, but I think it just has the ability to be such a powerhouse of artistry in this country and in the world. I think as a Black woman, I am amazed at the young, gifted, Black, beautiful people that I see every day I walk out of my house. And I also think Atlanta, more than so many other cities, has a willingness to, it's a relatively young city, so it has a willingness to engage and try to be, that's what I'm looking for. It has a willingness to experiment. I lived in the Washington, D.C. area. I've seen from afar what happens in New York City. And in many ways, those cities feel very closed. Like you have to somehow find the ticket to have access to really make a difference in the art scene there. And I think in Atlanta, there's just an amazing ability for people who are like-minded and who are really about powerful and engaging artistry to actually just go and get out there and do it. And that's the kind of possibilities I don't really see in many places, married with the amazing art that I also see here in the city. So over the last couple of decades that I've been here, I've seen remarkable progress. I think there's a lot more that can be done, but I see that the possibilities are endless, and I want to play a part in getting us to where we can be, to the very best that we can be as a city.